So I know we've been places where you can do that.
Still muted.
Nutritious, and simple. And this was really an excellent choice. And so kind of you to offer.
Hi, Jay.
Maybe they have it muted.
So, and it's gonna happen, so. It's kind of a broken record and we've had some good response so far, so I'm gonna keep it up for another month or two, so bear with it. We really are appreciative of people that would want to come up and present anything. You know, in other words, if there's a topic you like, that you'd like to start the topic, you don't have to carry a whole meeting's worth of the topic. Just to start the topic, because we got enough people in here that just like to talk. So we'll fill in the rest. You know, so if you got something that you're thinking about, how'd you hear?
You do? I've never been here before.
We don't use, it's got nothing to do with your certificate. It's just that if you've been here before, that's all. So what, how'd you hear about us and?
I got the email. Oh, I knew where this place was.
Those are two.
What do you do? What do you make?
Oh, I was, in my youth, I was a kitchen guy. And then I did other things, but I have a garage full of tools.
Okay. Yeah, we all do. We all. Yeah, right. That's part of the
The
requirement.
real problem is when it's beyond there.
Yeah. What is that?
When you start putting them in the kitchen cabinets, that's,
Yeah.
you got a problem.
Yeah.
It depends on whether you live alone or not.
Yeah.
I could put a router table in my kitchen. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Let's call it.
And you're gonna be alone for a long time.
Wow. Good one. Steve with the scene.
All right, show and tell. If anybody got something to show that's not router related, we'll get to that stuff later.
Well, a number of months ago, there was a discussion here about all the laser work. Well, that prompted me to go out and get Steve.
That's what we
So-
do. We just start people on a path and.
Another rabbit hole.
That's so.
So if you really want to see something that's useless, completely useless and decorative, this light switch does it. It started out as somebody sending me a picture, and the light switch that they had sent me was all handmade on a scroll saw. Well, back then that was the way to do it. Nothing was very accurate, so I put the CAD to work, and when I used CATIA, and I used all the parameters in CATIA, all the knowledge base and everything, so it's fully parameterized, and I designed this. Now, parameterized means that if I want to change a feature of it, if I want to make it a little bit bigger or something like that, I just go in and change a number, and it automatically updates the geometry. I don't have to go back in and create anything new. That's what I love about the software. So anyway, what I did is I created the light switch and then printed it out on the 3D printer. Well, you know, the 3D printer is good. The base plate that you see here, and I'll send this around, but the base plate you see here, it took about, and I'm gonna say 4 hours to print because of its size and the amount of material and stuff. And I kind of like, well, I'll make one, and that's all I made of it. The other features, the other knobs and everything, took about another 3 hours to print, but it was all dead accurate. We'll send this around.
So it actually just turns the switch on and off? Or?
Yep. Kind of like this one, which is now made with the new laser printer. And what it is, I say it's a useless piece of stuff. So it'll turn your switch on and off if you want. You don't have to sit there and hit the switch knob. You can watch the mechanics work there and be mesmerized by it for about 35 30,000 years or whatever. But yeah, this was all made with the laser printer and it actually got done today. That's why there's no finish on it or anything. All right, so we'll pass these around.
Did you have the one here?
No, I have one.
Oh,
I bought one. Yeah, I bought one. That's why I was asking so many questions when we had that.
I'm a hands on.
Now, this is how it started, believe it or not. 1/8" Baltic birch plywood. You know, you just line up all the pieces in the laser, on the laser bed, and you tell the laser machine, go fish. Well, go print. Yeah, I'm still working out the parameters, you know, like.
How long did it take to cut?
Okay, so to cut this was about 45 minutes to cut this plate. But then there was a lot of adjustments that needed to be made. And the adjustments took, you know, not the printing part, but, you know, you make an adjustment. Oh, yeah, it doesn't work. You go back and change it. Go back and, you know, back and forth, back and forth. That took the better part of the day. That's all. But yeah, it,
I mean, better than the
3D
other
printer. Well, but the thing is about the 3D printer is that everything is much more accurate with the 3D printer than it is with a laser cutter. Much more accurate. So the 3D printer got done once. This one was iterative, back and forth iterative. And the worst part is trying to figure out how much power on the laser. It's only a 10-watt laser.
Yeah.
But how much power and what speed to run that laser through. And I found that if you purchase Baltic birch plywood from Menards, it's got a bunch of flaws in it that the laser really doesn't like to go through evenly. You know, the laser doesn't print, it doesn't cut to the same depth all the time. I don't know why, but it doesn't. And so, yeah. So there's a lot of challenges to it. Yeah, what's up?
One random side note about Baltic birch is that most 4x8 Baltic birch is made with exterior glue, and that exterior glue is bad for laser cutting. And 5x5 is a different glue, and it's actually a much better machining or laser cutting product. If you get your hands on 5x5 gun, you go and get some. Laser a lot better than 4x8 stuff.
Okay, so the last piece of Baltic birch, 1/8" Baltic birch I bought from Woodpeckers. They had a sale on, you know, they were selling these 30x30 sheets for $3 or, you know, some really low price. So I got a bunch of them. I haven't used that as yet. Do you think that could be what you mentioned is a 5x5 Baltic?
Yeah, if it's 30x30.
Yeah, it's 30x30. That's a quarter of a sheet, right?
Quarter of a 5x5.
But that's 60.
5x5 is 60 inches by 60 inches, 5 feet.
Okay,
So that's probably that. Yeah.
I think it might be the right stuff.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, thank you for the suggestion.
And
Yeah,
Baltic
thank you.
birch and Menards is not Baltic birch.
No.
So that's the other thing. So
No, it's birch.
well, it's birch, it's just not Baltic birch. It's like, if you could have like, you said something was, it's like knockoff Baltic birch, right? It's like, I don't even know how you have that, but, you know, it's like.
It would be domestic.
So what is this you're passing around?
You can usually tell by the veneer ply, the face plies on true Baltic birch, that face ply is real. On our stuff that we make here, it's paper thin.
You're saying it's Baltic with like a K?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, what you see there is Baltic birch.
That's why I asked you, I was thinking of making switch plates
Yeah,
and some duplex outlet plates. And I was discouraged that it wouldn't meet code because it's wood.
well,
Yeah,
what you do is, you know, these handy plates or handy faces that you have, that you can get at Menards and all the big boxes that are just steel. You put that on and then you fasten this to it.
Put that behind it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wonder what you.
Brand, I
No,
make
put the
custom,
steel behind it.
I make custom switch plates for a lot of my kitchens. And I'll veneer them with the same veneer that they're on so that it blends through. And I use either Baltic or MDF and then line the inside with metal. And an electrician told me that you could use the aluminum HVAC tape and that would pass code because it's just a spark arrestor.
Yeah,
So very often I'll just line it with a couple layers of aluminum tape and
excellent.
call it done.
That'd be great. But I want to make some because it's real easy to make. I just.
Yeah,
You're saying if you replace a plastic cover plate with a wood cover plate?
well,
that's
it's a composite wood, right? It's MDF. I mean, it's gonna take a
Oh,
lot of
okay,
heat to get
okay.
it to burn. And you line the inside with the thick aluminum HVAC tape,
Yeah, okay.
you know, and yeah, they said it was fine.
Oh,
I've had inspectors look at them, then pass.
So as long as you have it thick enough metal for it to engage, it's grounding itself against the switch.
Right. Oh, it's not a grounding issue, it's a spark issue.
It's a spark issue.
It's a spark issue, it's a heat
Potential
issue.
never happened, but.
Right.
It better hope it's not a grounding issue.
Even if the.
Yeah, yeah.
That would suck.
Not good enough. Yeah, well, if you need.
And that
So you put
5 by
like
5
the-
Toledo
the
plywood.
junk
stock,
tape that's like-
5 by
almost like thick aluminum foil.
Yeah.
Right, not,
And super
8
sticky.
inch.
yeah,
Right,
super
yeah.
sticky. You put it down, it's.
That's a
No,
handy
and
tape,
actually, they'll-
especially if you got a laser, if it's a
they'll-
CO2
they'll-
laser,
I-
that
I
won't
buy
go through that tape, so
No.
if you need some jigs or fixtures, stick some tape.
Stick
to
to
it.
that. That sounds great.
And then just touch the laser right out.
That's what I.
I'm
put in my
still
dust
working on
collection
it.
system.
Yeah, me too.
I made a bunch of those cover plates, but I probably ought to take them all off and put
Are you using
tape.
air assist?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
What are the
yes,
chances?
yes. Came with the system.
My wire is 9 years old, so it's not like I've got the old ones.
Yeah,
that they put
yeah.
Curious, what kind of printer did you
in the.
The laser printer is AZTEC. It's made over in China, everything's made in China nowadays, you know.
where'd you get it?
I got it through, Mr. Amazon had it, and I got it on Mr. Amazon days. So I saved $300 on it, but still spent 800. Still, you know, yeah, it 10 watt, so it's not really huge power. Yeah, there's a rotary table with it. Yeah, we bought it. Are we ever gonna use it? Yeah, maybe, probably not, but you know, maybe. Yeah, we're still trying to figure it out. Yeah, so anyway, as I say, completely useless. but,
Absolutely
it's there.
fine.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
exactly. Yeah, good job. Oh, light burn, I like light burn.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
the functions of light burn.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
Lightburn's
that's-
good. Good driver.
yeah.
Anybody else for show and tell, not router?
I have some pictures.
Oh.
So I have these friends, Charlotte and Mike,
What are we
There.
starting with? Eric?
Hmm?
What are we starting with? The dock,
the bed.
the bed, got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
The other one's router. He said not router.
Yeah, right, true.
So, they're my age.
My young one.
Oh, you're not at the beginning.
Yeah, my
I'll go back.
home. I don't. we've never left.
And, Charlotte's great uncle Amos, three greats, in 1833 bought 500 acres of forest in New York. Bought 110 acres for $500. And he built a cabin and then a house, and it got passed down through the family, and Charlotte used to go up in the summers to her grandparents and visit them for the summer and would sleep in this bed. Amos's brother came to live with him in 1842. And the family records show that this bed that I'm going to show you was already in existence, that Amos had made it. So it's, it's give or take 5 years, it's 185 years old. And for some unknown reason, she asked me, I've never restored any antiques, to put this back together for her. It was broken and in pieces, and her uncle, who the property got passed down to, died, and they asked the heirs, gave her the bed. So this is the bottom of the rails where he'd signed his work. There's a mark of the maker. You can go on to the next one. And they, it's all made with hand tools. They didn't get electricity in this farm until Roosevelt's rural electrification program. And so my grandmother was a seamstress, and the top's been replaced, but she had a sewing machine, British sewing machine, that was like treadle. Go down a little bit. And I found this picture on the web. So they would have had a lathe that was foot powered lathe. Somebody's nodding. You've seen these.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go on to the next one. So, this is just, you can sort of scroll through these slowly, but these are pictures of the broken pieces of the bed.
Hold on a second, let me share this. Sorry. Too much to do. Give me a second.
Too much.
No, you're
Too big?
fine. You're fine.
So I received this bed in pieces. And you can see where it broke is where the mortise and tenon joints were. And I think there just wasn't enough room. Keep going. So I decided to put it back together with hide glue, given the age of the piece. Although it had been repaired many times. And pretty much from the same stresses. Here it is in pieces. You go on to the next one.
So how wide is that piece of wood that's on your?
I can show you that it's 18 inches. It's, you know, it's primal forest. The posts were butternut, white walnut, and I think this is pine. And you can see it's broken here, and it's, you know, had splatters of paint on it, and so I flew this piece back on. This piece goes over here. You can go on to the next one. And there's just more repair work, trying to get it back together as best as I could. She was very specific. She did not want this refinished like a new piece, which you see on the web for sale for thousands of dollars. She wanted all the battle scars and stuff to remain. That was my task. So here it is. I've put it back together, and it was not easy to do until I figured out that I'll show you some better pictures. But they've left some maker's marks. Go down a little bit. Yeah. So you can see this is a Cannonball and Vase Federalist bed from the Federalist period, which actually ended in 1823 officially, but obviously they still make Federalist style beds today. Who knows what these are? Those holes. For ropes. Ropes, yeah. So she slept on this bed when it had ropes going back and forth. Hence the expression sleep tight, don't want the bed bugs bite. The mattress was restuffed with straw every year, once a year. You can go on to the next one. Okay, so this is just kind of a close-up of the bed put back together, and this is the back of the bed. Now, just the same from the other direction. You can see the holes again. Yeah, you can go on to the next one. So I finally figured out that, go up just a little. Yeah. That this went together, you know, to make a mortise and tenon by hand. That mortise and that tenon go together, and you can't flip the rails over or turn them around or whatever. And this is the original maker's mark on the post. This piece, which I'll talk about in a bit, did not have marks on it, but so that people in the future could put the bed back together. When I figured out how it actually went together, these are my marks. And I tried to match what was on there. They were done with a chisel in the old days. And the reason they used Roman numerals is it was done with a chisel. And I'm beginning to think, having tried to do this, I'm thinking, gee, maybe that's where Roman numerals came from, chisels. You can go on to the next one.
How did the numbers in?
How did I take the numbers?
How did you put the numbers in?
With a chisel and a mallet. So someone asked, how big is this? Go up just a little bit more. So this piece, you know, take 3 off of the 21. It's like 18 inches. This is one board, no panels. And there's actually no glue on this. I'll show you the hardware. I mean, I put glue on to repair it. And what I did when I put this back together is you can see right here, I used a rasp and I took like a 32nd of an inch off these the tenons. So that seasonally when that moves, I'm hoping it'll keep it from cracking again. You can go on to the next one. And this is just a close-up of the many places this thing is cracked. Keep going. That's the bottom piece that was broken. So what you're looking at here is a bed bolt. And the way the bed was put together is the post had these bolts that went through into the rail. And then they chiseled a mortise and put a nut in there and then put a piece of wood to hold a wedge to hold the nut in place. And then just screwed this together. And one of the nuts was missing, which sent me on a merry chase. Keep going. So this is, I found this on Etsy. This is the new one. Keep going up. And this is the old one. And this, you know, there were 8 of these because you have 4 corners and you're going from both directions. So this was what was missing. So I had to get the whole piece in order to get the nut. And then you can see here the wedges. And this piece, you can see the 4 up here. Go down just a little. Yeah, you can see the Roman numeral 4 there. But this is the rail here. These rails did not have these wedges, and I think that's how the piece got lost. Is the purpose of these is to hold the nut in there when you take the bed apart. So you unscrew it, take the bed bolt out, but the nut stays in there so it doesn't get lost. And so that it's in position. So when you go back to put it back together, you're, you know, struggling to get it in there. When I had to put these nuts back in there and make these pieces to hold them, what I had to do was get a matchstick, and I super glued the bolt on and threaded it through the post of the rail into the nut, screwed it tight, and then pulled the matchstick out. Okay, go up again. And so this is great. So in this issue of fine woodworking, how many of you get fine woodworking? So in the November issue, there's an article about how to stretch wood. And they're saying, look at this great way to make your wood longer if you cut something too short. And here they've done that. They had this piece, and again, they didn't use any glue, so they put a couple of big screws through there. Like Tony, who's sitting over there, you know, helped me realize that these rails were probably not original to the piece. And Tony thinks, and I don't have a better suggestion, that they may actually have been old barn beams or rafters used to replace the rails. So here's the article from November 2023 of, you know, this great invention of scarfing a piece together. It's a 185-year-old bed. So that's just a close-up of the rope, where the ropes went. And so there were 2 mortises there that didn't exactly line up on the rails, and I had to fudge these to get them to fit. But Charlotte didn't want to go back to having a rope and straw mattress. She wanted to put a regular mattress in there, and so she asked me to put ledgers on, which is what this is, to hold the you know, a modern mattress in place. So I did that for her, and this held the slats, and then so the slats go in here, and the slats are this thick, so that in the end, you know, the slats meshed with these. And then we had a devil of a time finding mattresses. this is, we figured out, it's called a 3/4 mattress, which 2 people slept in. And they still sell 3/4 mattresses in Europe. But if you go to a mattress factory, they don't have 3/4 mattresses
You
anymore.
can have it made, and the only
You
reason.
can have it made, but Charlotte figured out that you can go to an RV, a recreational vehicle supply place. And the mattresses that they make for RVs are the same size. So you can go up again. So this is a picture with us, I made slats for her. You can go up another one. So, our friend Aaron, who comes to these meetings, I think he's gonna be here tonight, but he's not, told me to get this stuff I never heard of called crud cutter. And I used, this feed and wax stuff. You can go up to the next one. So here's a before, up a little bit more. Good. So this is a before picture, and then this is after I used the crud cutter and the wax. So I was trying to clean it up for her, but not remove the battle scars. You can go up another
What was the
one.
purpose of the crud cutter? I mean, honestly, like, what was the cleanup, but like how, what are you trying to get off?
Just dirt and grime from 100 years of, being in a spare bedroom and being in an attic in a barn
Crud cutter actually makes a
and
few
stuff right
different
there.
products. One of them is, can be used for preparing walls for your paint. Instead of,
I think I've seen it in the paint section.
those toxic.
So here's one of the bed bolts. Yeah, I showed you before, but you can see 2 little holes here and there. Who knows what those are for? Now, what?
The whole cover.
That cover, that's right. That bolt cover. Go up. And there we go. I found a reproduction at Lee Valley for cheap. So we can go up again. So this is a Federalist period, 3/4 cannonball and base. They had like cannonballs and acorns and cannonballs and pineapples and cannonball, all sorts of stuff was the second one. You can go up again. And so there it is, put together in Charlotte's house with the new mattress. Go up another one and go down a little bit. I think we missed something. Maybe it didn't come out. Oh, okay, go up again. Maybe it's down further. So this is a Federalist 3/4 cannonball and base bed. And you can go up to the next one. That's, there it is. So I tried to, it's blurry, but I tried to copy it from this was as close as I could find on, somebody was selling it on the web for like $3,000. And you can see it's pretty much exactly the same, except this is a cannonball and bell. This part's a bell. Cannonball and bell. From about the same period. Yeah, go down a little bit. So this part here are called ram's ears. So there's the horns and here's the those are the ears. And if you go up, I found this picture of horns. Cool. I'm watching. It's the first time I've ever done something like this, so if you guys can have suggestions, I'm happy to hear.
I just restored a much smaller antique little kind of a small desk. It was about 100 years old, but I didn't use hide glue though, even though maybe I should have, but.
I just started.
How was that to work with?
It's great, actually. I've been using Type-On since this is a retirement hobby for me. I used to be a pediatrician. And I've discovered hide glue. What's wonderful about it is you get a little bottle of it, and you get a mug, fill the mug halfway up with water, stick it in the microwave for 2 minutes, put the bottle of hide glue in it, let it warm up for a couple minutes. And then you just use it like regular Type Bond glue, except A is brown. So when you're, like, if you're dovetailing or something, it fills in all the little gaps and the stuff that you did that wasn't perfect, which is wonderful. And B, right now I'm making a chest of drawers, and I glued something on that I should not have. I mean, it has to be glued there eventually, but I have to put another piece in, and it would have been a disaster with Type Bond. But you just get a closed steamer and you steam the joint, and then as soon as it gets warm, it comes apart again.
It sounds, that's all I use.
What do you use? Yeah,
I'm a
convert.
but I don't even heat it up, I just use it. And it's, you know, a little glue pot or something to heat it up. No, that's like if you're getting like the granules and you're like heating it up, there's like a hot pot. Right. They mix it with, I forget what, there's something, but that's what Type Bond sells. Ammonia.
It's got some kind of stabilizer in it.
Yeah, but it makes it the liquid, and that's all I use. And what I like about it is, I always somehow get, with Type Bond, I'd always get on a finger or something, and I bump the surface and you don't notice it. And then you go to finish it, even though you sand it, somehow it, shows up. And I was so annoyed. And Type Glue doesn't do that.
You find it tacks up the same as the granule? You guys use the granule?
I could never use the granule.
I know that one of the big ones that's handy is you almost don't need clamps because it'll tack up real fast. Once you get your pieces together, they're gonna stay there pretty soon, like 30 seconds.
It's also got at least the liquid's got a good open.
Yeah, it cleans up with hot water. You just take it in the laundry sink and turn on the hot water and rinse stuff, and you're done.
Yeah,
They say you should never repair a chair using Type Bond. You should always use hide glue because the chair will loosen up. You can take it apart and you can re-glue it. So it's hide glue. So you should never, always use it to repair a chair. Thank you.
All right, anybody else have anything, Sean, to tell, or? Okay. All right, as everybody should know, gonna tell you again. Next month meeting is our December, and it's always a show and tell is the topic of it. But this year there's the added challenge to make a shop-made stool. And we're gonna have, it could be for shop, kitchen, garden, whatever. It could be green or air dried, kiln dried, acceptable. Prizes will be presented. And we've added a category for the ugliest stool. So if it doesn't seem like it's coming out proper to you, don't worry about it. Maybe you get into the other category. So anyways, a stool, doesn't matter if it's step on, if it's for the kitchen, anything, just a stool that you made in your shop. So
Steve, just real quick. So December tends to be the holiday get together. It's a little more social, a little less topic based. Encourage you to bring things to show, to talk about food. Food's great.
Most people, we usually drink food.
Yeah, but we're not gonna do like a specific topic necessarily, but I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about.
it's gonna be more people talking, leave things set up around here, maybe a few extra tables in here, put stuff that people want to show and tell, and this and that, and it's more of the meeting is, more people getting together and socializing than.
And real quick, is anyone planning on doing a stool? Real quick, show of hands, anyone? Couple? All right, cool. Want to know how many?
Okay.
Just trying to get a feel.
Yeah. So.
I recommend it if you can. It doesn't have to be fancy.
So, I guess we're gonna move on to router. Anybody want to go first, or? We have an agenda?
I brought some stuff in, so I can start.
Yeah, you start.
All right.
We can ramble.
I'll start with what. So at one point as a club, this was 2018. Somewhere around there. We built these as a club, right? We all kind of got together. We did like a bulk order of the hardware and of the material. Let me set for the camera. Sorry, I forgot. So this one allows you to like. Well, this one's stuck right now. So that it's to do a mortise, right? So it's just a mortar server, but Bill Wells had made one, and for those who don't know, Bill Wells is a very good furniture maker in the area, and he actually wrote an article, I think, to Fine Woodworking about it, and it got published. So it was, we're like, oh, let's get together and build it. So that's what we did, and I've used it a few times, and then I got a Domino, so I haven't used it as much. It's still really handy, and obviously I haven't gotten rid of it. But yeah, it's nice. And we also had we had plans to make some angle bits, like you could do angled mortises for big picture frames or stuff like that. In fact, I used this for that. I just didn't make an angle piece. I just threw a speed square in there and just clamped it down, and I didn't care. It was a speed square. It's one of those plastic ones, but yeah. And I just used it with a plunge router. So yeah, it slides back and forth. Yeah, that was something fun though. And then I brought a couple other things. One of them is my cordless trim router, which I know sounds silly, but so I needed new batteries for I have a Makita, and I bought mine in my drill in 2010. So the batteries died a year and a half ago. I know, surprising, but literally 10 years old. So they died. And the best deal was if you buy batteries and a charger, it's cheaper than just buying batteries, but then it came with a tool. So I got this. It's really nice and really quiet. And I absolutely love having it cordless. I don't think I'd ever go back. So it's just, I like that because for little stuff, you're like, oh, dang, I forgot to do this round over. Now I don't have to set up my router. I don't have to find an extension cord, or I don't have to set up the router table. I just that's it. So
Do you feel it to be top heavy at all with the battery?
yes,
Okay.
but you just suck it up and deal with it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's annoying.
I'll pass mine around. This is the Milwaukee.
You probably could put a bigger base on
You
it
don't
like
drop it.
that. I like the small base because I always need the small base.
I have that same Makita router. If you show my other slides, this isn't as long, guys, I promise. I'll show you what I made with this router.
Is it from Alden from the 1800s?
No,
All right.
The router is.
so
Where do you want to start?
you can show those
Where do you want to start?
anywhere. So this is a kit you can buy, and I had to buy a different base. You can sort of unscrew this part and put a different base on, and then you screw this in. This screws into that, and then there's this magic little ring, which is the same diameter as the bit, right? If you take your router and you cut out a circle, and then you put the circle back, the circle doesn't fit because there's a curve from the bit, and so you cut the hole, and the piece that's going to go in the hole, one with and one without this little ring attached, and that makes up having the ring on and not on, right? This rides on your whatever you're cutting out. I'll show you some things in a minute, and then so that's the bit, and then this is just a centering rod. So there's some just left over from stuff I'd cut out, but these are scraps that I've saved, from other things. If you cut off a piece and it's like 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, I used to throw them out, but now I save them and I can use them for this other stuff. And then this is, you can buy fairly inexpensively all sorts of different kinds of wood in a sample pack. And then you just use the sample pack for the pieces. You can show the next are just things that I've done with that router. You can just scroll through those. There's a lion. On to the next one, a butterfly. There. There's a mouse.
Does everybody understand the concept of the collet relative to the bit and how you can use that Brinley's, because it's kind of a critical topic with
really
routers,
clever.
right? This is one of the things I thought we would, I brought some collets just to. The whole idea of, routers don't work well unsupported, right? They need to be well supported, and whether it's supported on a bearing surface that you're riding on an edge of a template, or it's the base supported on a jig, which we should talk about too, because there's some creative uses of them. What the concentric collars do is, when combined with the right diameter bit, you get the ability to follow both the outside and inside of a given line such that they meet, despite the fact that there's a curve, if that makes sense, right? So if you made a single curved template, and you followed it on the outside, and then you followed it again, and you tried to get them to meet up, it wouldn't meet up because there's a curve the width of the cutter. So by using the collets combined with the right diameter.
This width here.
Right.
It's the same as that there, right?
Right, and these things also come in sizes. I mean, this is specifically for doing these little inlay things. Those are the tops of stools. I have 8 grandkids and I made them all stools. I started out with their initials, but some of them were so young, I put animals on them. And then the other ones wanted animals, but these things come in different sizes.
I've got a whole set here,
Yeah.
so these are my collets. But there's some cool things you can do too. So like, if you're willing to sacrifice a collet or two, you can chop off half of the. I'll pass one of these around and kind of see what they look like, and then there's a ring.
They're super cheap.
They're relatively cheap, and the key is that they're centered. So if they're not centered, they don't work, because obviously everything's based on that perfect circle. So wherever the router is, you've got the same radius from the center of the cutter. But what I've learned is, if you cut that circle in half and remove half of it and put a straight cutter in, you can do some very interesting things, right? So you can remove material referenced off this side, right? You know what I mean? It lets you sneak up on cuts in different ways. So the point here is, don't hesitate to modify. This is something I wish when I'd started woodworking, somebody had told me. When you get a router, it comes with a base plate, right? And you look at your base plate and you're like, okay, well, there's the base plate for the router. That's the way it works. Now, this is a sample of a base plate for a router. Make new base plates. If you know the screw and center pattern for your base plate, or you can use this as a template, you can do whatever you need by making new base plates that fit on the same router. And if you can center the hole appropriately, then you can use collets no matter what you're doing. So, I've made base plates where it hangs off the side this far with a handle on it, because I need to ride the
template. But I needed to make a lot, and initially I started with, I think I had. This guy, this one or another flush trim bit, just a straight one though. And I think of the first 5 cutting boards I made, every single one of them like blew up. And like there were like 5 different types of wood. Like I had cherry, sure, blew up, maple blew up, it was like white oak blew up. I don't remember, there's another one. They all and like walnut, everything was like, this is not working. So I looked online, someone's like, look at the Infinity tools, okay? Yeah, and this is their flush trim one, and it's got the shear cut. This is the longer one. I actually I've bought one of the shorter ones, which is like 1.5 inches, 1.25. I don't even remember, but yeah, it's a little shorter, it's a little cheaper. It's like $50. It's great. Bought one, used it for all those cutting boards, and then some other stuff, and then it started to get really dull. So then I went to make like a spoon, and then that exploded. So that told me time to do it. Yeah, time for a new bit.
Router while you're at it.
Actually, I just replaced the router in my router cable had actually burnt up, so I like just replaced it. But yeah, so I got another one. So I have the 2-inch one, just in case, and I have the shorter one as well.
When you say exploded, I'm confused.
Oh, like blowout, blowout.
Okay.
But like a couple of them were like
Beyond repair.
just like it was way beyond repair. It was like aggressive blowout. And you're like, okay, so of the handle of the cutting board, half of it is left. That's not gonna work.
Well, they confused.
I'm like, there's not enough. It would just be like a wood filler cutting board at that point.
Am I the only weirdo who loves peeling off whatever goop? they
Oh,
get?
I know, right?
It's my favorite thing.
there's-
Every bit.
So you gotta respect the strength I have to not do that right now.
I'm serious. How is that still that way?
I know, it's great.
I want to do it, but it would be terrible to do that to your router.
I know, it's like, it's one of the things, like, we gotta stay. Okay.
So we can deal with
Oh,
it. And the raffle prize be filling off the goop, not the bit itself. You get that.
Actually, Amazon sells those goop application machines.
Yeah,
if
I
you want
I
to.
need some of that goop just so I can do it in my spare time.
I actually, in my internship, I worked in the machining area, and I had, like, they're like, oh, we got all the new tools, and can you go peel it off? I spent 3 hours doing that one day.
Was it fun by hour 3?
No, probably not.
No.
What about compression bits? What about compression bits?
Oh, yeah, so this one is sheared, so it does both, because it's got the double bearing. So it's both the, like, the up cut and down cut in the way, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
your cutters are
Yeah,
converging in the middle.
though I only use it one way, just because I never needed it. Yeah, you wanna talk more about them?
What do you know about?
That's about it.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you have plywood, then having a compression cutter works really well because it's cutting down on the top and up on the bottom at the same time, so you don't.
It's just an up cut and a down.
Thought that was sort of
cut,
obvious.
combined together.
Right. They promise you will never get a splinter.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Whatever's along.
Use your finger, and you won't get a splinter.
That cut from
Your
your
wood was
so
Perfect, yeah.
so.
No.
I know their compression cutters are real useful on CNCs too, for cabinet shops and things. They just go plunge straight in, go, and they cut the panel out in one go. and-
Yeah.
But even on a router table, again, you're not leaving especially if you're using pre-finished plywood or something like that.
That
you're not
super thin
getting
veneer,
any chip out on
You
the
know.
side. You've got to make sure that you got it
nail in the middle.
aligned
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
'cause, you know,
I'm a hoarder myself.
That was always one of the reasons I got stuck. It'd be great on a router with a fence, on a router table with a fence, because a lot of times those cutters with the bearings on top of. Oh, man.
Like, what are you using for a router?
Oh.
What do you have then?
I'm very proud of my router table. I built it
First time I've seen.
18 years ago. It's all 3/4 inch Baltic birch. I did my own top, 2 layers of 3/4
how
MDF.
many people started with one of these?
For my, I started with that. I didn't, that's even fancier than I had. I didn't have plastic. I had a sheet of CDX plywood and a 2x4 with C clamps.
Well,
That's all you need.
that's all you need.
It does everything my fancy one does.
Piece of polycarbonate I had on a job. And just put a bolt on one end or a screw.
Yeah. there's your fence.
Yep.
Plain and simple, throw on a pair of horse, take it out to the field, you're done. And,
I got it.
and don't reinvent the wheel.
One handy
Unless
tip,
reinventing the wheel is your hobby.
one handy tip about that is to back bevel the fence. Where it meets the table, right? To relieve it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's critical because you get gunk built up in there, and you can never ride something against it, so
So,
nice chamfer.
On this
Put a
portion,
little chamfer along the fence,
Yeah.
where the fence intersects with the
Yeah.
surface of the table.
Right.
So there can be some, little bit of sawdust chase.
All in all, it works.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't need more than that.
you like your
Yeah, you
router?
do.
Oh, yeah, I love my Bosches.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bosch makes nice routers.
I have the 16, 18 ES.
Oh, this one doesn't have the good thing at all.
The D handle routers are nice. Certain things, yes, the D handle is much nicer to hold than any of the other configurations.
I never used the D handle. Oh, it's nice.
It's very nice.
They're
Yeah.
both stable.
Yeah, really grab it with one hand and then have the other hand to sort of.
The reason I actually got the D handle for my DeWalt, it was extra, it was like about almost about
Yeah,
as much as the
more
thing
to it,
itself.
yeah.
But the reason I got it was that I'm picturing myself like holding this router and I'm used, the one I started with had a trigger on the handle.
Mm-hmm.
It's an on-off switch at the top of the DeWalt. So I'm like, in picturing the spring's gone wrong, I have to then take my hand off spring going wrong. Then flip it to flip at the back and I got one with the trigger on the handle.
Yeah, speaking of that,
be able to turn it off without letting it go.
Yeah.
speaking of the turning it on, stop start on a router, is almost unlivable without. You can't, like, the first router I ever used did not have soft start, and you got to reach up, so you only got a hold of it with one hand, and that when it kicks on, and I got a nice little squirrely thing in my project, because I didn't know about constricting my motion, but now soft start, you can just reach up and you can, at your leisure, get your hand where you need it. Takes a second and a half to kick on, that's so much nicer than
So what do
having.
you use, real quick on the table?
Yeah.
What are you using for a lift?
I have no, it was a Rousseau. It was the cheapest thing on Amazon 20 years or 15, 18 years ago. And it
Good.
works just fine.
Solid logic.
Yeah. I tried, so I bought Milwaukee's 1 3/4 horse ones, which have that base that has the little spindle that Freud started copying. On the downside of that stupid thing, as soon as you pull that clamp that secures it, it'll either fall or it has so much slop that when you dial it where you want it and you clamp it, and it moves up 32nd of an inch, and I've lost my dad.
It's funny, I did the same thing and I'm like, this is.
It's just unusable, so I threw it into a lift and that's what I use now. My router table's fancy though. I spent a lot of money on that. Mine is not a.
I have a
anymore.
just the lift, one of them, it's black.
Yeah, they're all,
Master lift?
yeah, master, that's another one.
That's
Yeah.
our.
That's our,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
Branding.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
And I see it, the Jessams every now and then, like weirdly cheap online.
Every once in a while. Don't buy the Rockler one unless you have a Rockler cable.
Yep.
Don't go to Rockler.
Yeah,
There's the price
Yeah,
for
right.
woodworking, just kidding. But don't, all the Rockler plates or anything that says bench dog or a weird
Yep.
size,
They're a
they're a
weird
dumb
size.
company and they didn't make them the same size that everybody else in the world uses.
Yep.
So.
And someone in the club at one point gave me like, they had an MDF template that like you can just use a.
Yeah.
A bit more in order to like make your router table. I don't have it anymore because I made my router table and I'm like, why do I have this? And someone else needed it, so I just gave it to them.
Yeah.
I don't know who I did.
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
So I got something to show you guys. Again, talking about like, when I reach for a router in the shop, what am I doing with it? A lot of the time it's edging or edge banding or trimming solid wood that's glued on to a horizontal run, right? So, been a couple iterations, but it started with, I do a lot of edge banding, making cabinetry and such. Most commercial edge banders, like proper edge banders, which I can't fit in my shop or I don't want them, but that's a whole nother conversation. When you pass the wood in, it applies the edge banding, it trims it, it rounds it over, it buffs it, it polishes it, removes the glue, cuts the ends, and out comes the
it
other
even
side.
calls your mom on Sundays.
Well, they're about 80 grand, so yeah, it should.
But have some room if you want to buy one.
Yeah, I wish I had space, but anyway, so in lieu of that, I had to find a way to edge band at scale. And it turns out applying the edge banding is actually pretty easy. Trimming the edge banding.
Yeah.
To appropriate quality levels is really hard, right? So, when I'm saying edge banding, I use thick edge banding. I use 1.5 thick solid wood edge banding. So it's heavy, it looks good. But sometimes for some jobs, I'll glue on a 30mm piece of wood that's rabbited and leave it proud and then need to trim a 1/4 inch of maple on a shelf. It just looks really good. And the question is, how do you do that quickly and at a quality level, without sitting with a file and sander, especially if you pre-finished plywood, it's tricky. So a couple things I want to show them that. First thing is this bit. So this is a miniature bearing spiral cutter and they're cheap. And it's one of the most useful bits I've ever used. I mean, I have a couple of them. I use them all the time. This is the ultimate trimming bit, right? So I also use it on the CNC. So if you cut on the CNC and leave tabs to leave a piece in, I just run this around it, using the piece as with the bearing. But it's so small that it fits in the area. It's sharp as hell, cuts great. It stays in this router. It's a great little bit. Yeah, it's a little tiny bearing at the top.
What's it called
It's a
again?
1/4 inch.
It's a 1/4 inch spiral. Yeah, upcut spiral.
Who makes it? What is it?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's an Amana.
Whenever, and then that tells what it is.
I think there's a couple of them. I think Tools Today, I think I got theirs. They're like 30, 40 bucks each. It's a great little bit. But the question then becomes, let's say that this is the piece that we've edge banded and we want to cut the edge banding flush. Well, the goal obviously is to use the piece as the reference and somehow drive the router along that reference piece, taking off what you want. Okay, so have you guys seen this?
Yes, they don't make that anymore.
Yeah, so this is a cool little attachment. It's something you could make yourself if you wanted to. It's very inexpensive, but you drill a hole in your router plate, you put this bit in there, and I'll see if I can demonstrate this. All you do is register does that come off? Yeah, it does. You register the flat, you rock the router down to the piece and you roll right along.
It's your perpendicular D handle, right?
Right? It's a perpendicular D handle with a flat milled in.
That has a flat on it, it doesn't
You see
turn
it?
when you move the route.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah.
I'm interested that you
Kind of
went,
brilliant.
I could see that very useful for a curved panel that.
Yep.
Cause my brain goes straight to vertical. Just give me a real tall fence on my router table and just run it through that way.
I don't want to run anything on pre-finished plywood.
Well, also if you have something, if you're talking about a 6-foot panel.
Right.
It's
Oh,
real
yeah.
hard to run a 6-foot
Sure.
panel through your.
I try
Yeah.
not to make anything taller than me.
So but just the key with this is to think about what geometry it provides you to get that
Yeah.
stability.
Yeah.
It just happens to be a brilliant engineering. This was fast, thank you.
Yeah.
This was a fast cap product. I think it was $30. I
Yeah.
don't know. And I saw it, and it was like, oh, well, yeah, done,
Still
right?
fine
That,
to use it.
but this combined with that little tiny bearing cutter.
That makes perfect sense.
And I mean, so I can rip edge band. Now, I don't use this anymore because it turns out that Festool
Yeah.
has solved this for you. This is Festool's exact answer to the same thing, right? It's got a
Not 30 bucks.
dedicated straight cutter. It's got an adjustable bearing to set the depth, and it's got a micro adjustable height.
So you can put
And
a
that's a little more
normal,
than 30 bucks.
you can throw.
It's very expensive.
You can throw a normal straight cutting bit, because the bearing is
Yes.
integral to the bit, so that just saves you cutter cost quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is the expensive answer, but it's faster.
Well, I like that I could spend $20,000 to save 15 on a ride.
The other thing about this too is I keep it this way because I only use it for edge banding. I never use it for anything else, but it comes with all the other bases to turn it into a proper trim router. So you can do everything else you can do with a trim router. I've never used them once because all I do is use it for this application.
Is that like a phenolic base?
Yeah, it's got like a phenolic face that I wax because it does get sticky with the adhesive, the adhesive from the edge bander. But Festool did a better job than that. But for many years, that thing just knocks it out of the.
That was 30 bucks.
Yeah, this is not $30.
But it's not 80.
Well, but the thing is, it's not 80,000 either. And honestly, this combined with the appropriate clamping systems, I'll do 8 rooms of cabinetry.
Yeah, if you're cabinetry for a living or you edge band for a living, that's
damn
cheap.
cheap.
That's
It's
damn cheap.
It's cheap. I still want an edge bander, but there's no way. I could fit it.
Dave, have you ever tried doing it vertically? So,
Vertically?
so you build
Oh.
the base.
Yeah.
So you've got a large-ish base, and
Yeah.
then your router is on the top of the base, and your bit is dropped to a dollar bill above the surface of the table.
Yeah.
Put a handle out on the end, and now you're cutting with the bottom of, well, you're cutting with the
Oh,
side
yeah,
of the
yeah,
bottom
yeah,
of the
yeah,
bit.
right,
Do you
So
ever-
the answer is no, because I can't run on the finished phase.
Well, you're running that on the finished base.
Yeah, but this is one, it's only that far over.
Sure.
And two, I can control the wear on this. I
You
get,
control the wear on whatever you put on, you just make your base, right? I mean, you could put a piece of phenol, you could whack it. I'm just curious.
I get, but the thing is, like,
How's the cut of
It-
the,
oh, I'm done.
you're always happy with the cut and you never.
What I
you
do
don't have to go back.
after I cut, I take a file and I run it along the edge at an angle, one pass.
Just to
And
not
I'm
sure.
done.
Sure,
And I'll do 120 sheets worth of plywood.
sure.
That was a different vertical than I was thinking. I was thinking router table, giant fence.
No,
I was thinking,
You're thinking
you put like a
the end of the
router
bit does the
bit
cutting.
and you do it this way, right?
Yeah, and you just set the bit to like a dollar bill above the.
The other main issue though is very often my panels are big.
Mhm.
And when I put them on my clamp, they're not flat, right? Like they'll be supported in the middle and they'll kind of be doing this a little bit, and I don't care. I'll walk, just go be like, "Whoop."
Yeah, because you have a single surface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know, and if you miss. The ramifications of failure are really,
You let that
really
thing go.
high.
You're never gonna miss down on.
No, you're never gonna miss down.
So
You
you
might miss
okay.
up. And then you gotta go back and redo it. up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen it work.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you tried it. I know a lot of people prefer that cut.
Yeah.
But if your bits are.
Well, the problem I have
You're
with
you when
this,
you have 1,000 of those bits waiting around, the second the cut gets bad, you just throw it away.
yeah,
Yeah.
the problem I have with this is it picks up the glue from the edge bander and it clogs in there and gets nasty.
Sure.
And because it's a heat activated glue, the friction can melt the glue, making it worse.
Sure.
You get the point.
Yeah.
So I have to stop and clean up occasionally.
The OF1010, which is the
Yeah,
fake trim router, it's between that and the 1400. They have that kit for it to sort of do this, but it's certainly not as good as this. It's not as classy as this. If you're doing it all, if you're you,
Yeah.
that's the only one to own.
well, they
If
make,
you're a hobbyist, then the 1010 with its.
yeah, it's probably a better option.
Yeah.
They make a plate for it that's like a 2-degree angle,
Oh, yeah,
which is even better, right? Cause then it's cutting at a slight bevel.
sure.
I don't use it, I just use the flush one.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I wanted to show that because this was kind of inspirational when I first saw this, right?
My little entrepreneur brain's like, how do I make that?
This,
myself?
this is a great, I mean,
They still make it. I just was looking like last week or two, we talked about this topic to see if it still.
If they come back to
exists.
it.
It kind of
They
looks like a
make it for a
paint
long
roller.
time.
It's not-
yeah, and you know, I don't mind passing this
Yeah.
around, you guys can see it.
Where do you buy the chicken?
But you,
Does that and like. they took it all.
the thing with this,
Your invention. and then I have a contract.
Yeah, maybe that's what
That might-
the thing with this is it gives you another capability to then add to your woodworking projects, right? Like if edge banding, and when I say edge banding, again, I'm not talking about thin iron-on edge banding, although it works for that. You could be talking about applying solid wood banding to a piece of material. If you know you have the capability to deal with that edge, you'll be more inclined to design a piece of furniture with such an applied edge, right? So that, when I look at a thing like that, I see it as inspirational to what can use it.
They make it again,
Yeah,
and it's $42.30.
yeah, that's a no.
Who makes it? Fast Cap?
Fast cap.
Fast cap. It's one of their winners.
Little
Yeah.
liquor, like the.
Internet, stage your life.
Yeah, not a big screen here, but there you go. Not even loading the image right now, but fast cap, little leopard. There it is.
Little leopard, that's it.
42, huh?
And really a brilliant design, you know?
Little Lipper. Little Lipper. That's my
Yeah.
rap name, actually.
Okay.
Your rap name, Little
My
Leopard.
rap name, Little Lipper.
It's terrible.
Jason, I have a topic, a suggestion. I could talk on it, but I didn't want to pick one when I highlighted. But while we're on the subject of Jared's cutting boards blowing up and Dave doing edge banding, one of the big ones is fine cut versus conventional.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big thing in a router because there's a direction. And each direction does a different thing. Sometimes you do pine cuts, sometimes it's not a good idea.
And sometimes you forget and you shoot something across the shop.
Been there, done that.
That's right, I got the bear.
I haven't. Well, I mean, I did, but it was.
I was a pony cut shop, so I never have it. It was never documented.
So semi-related, question about edge banding. So I tried my first time doing the heat edge banding where you iron it on. And, you know, I get it mostly right, and so there's little spots, and I'm running my finger, just kind of probing where it's not. There's those little spots where I can catch with my fingernail and get a little bit, like the glue just didn't quite adhere.
Oh, so you can, after you've trimmed it, you can feel it's a little bit loose.
It's a little
You can hear
tiny
that,
loose.
you hear that
Hear it?
weird little,
It's little spots.
yeah, that little.
And so I was gonna super glue it, but then I'm looking at the instructions on super glue, just casually as I'm walking through the store, I notice it says, get on your fingers to use coconut oil to loosen it. I'm using an oil-based finish, and I use CA glue to kind of tighten those little spots, a little dab here and there. Is the oil-based finish gonna loosen that CA glue?
Why are you using CA glue to re-secure it, not heat?
Yeah, go back
That's
to
what I tried using the heat, and just like once there was like the adhesive just wasn't there.
It shouldn't reactivate.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I
Yeah.
have always done, cause I've had this happen before, because I bought the super cheap edge banding off
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah.
So there was a shelf in the basement. Basement, a good plug, so I can't, but just enough. And I just usually use the iron, and I kind of do it at like, I go over it once, and I go over it again with an
a
angle.
little tiny, yeah.
And then I go the other way with the angle, so it's like, up, 5 degrees this way.
You're just kind of really pushing the top edge.
That's all I
there,
do.
where it
It's
overlaps.
definitely a wrong way of doing it, but that's what I've done.
So where's the
I
cheap
mean,
though?
it's
You can pop it off.
really cheap edge banding. It was like 250 feet for like $20 or something.
So where is the good edge?
Oh.
That's a big one.
In
Well,
Dave's shop,
I
he
mean-
makes it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I buy it from Richelieu.
Okay.
You should buy proper edge banding. And if anyone needs any, I mean, just ask. I'm always ordering stuff from Richelieu. I mean,
Okay.
you know, they sell it in like large rolls.
Yeah.
But it's still cheaper than if you buy a little roll at scale, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I found.
Yeah,
that-
but the other thing to do, if you've got a bad edge banding job, take a heat gun, heat it up, take it off,
Peel it
and
right back
start
off.
over. Start again. Do not hesitate to remove bad edge banding, because it's heat activated. Just take a heat gun, take a putty knife, very slowly, take it off, start over.
Okay.
Yeah, and one more tip, if you're using the iron. So I got a little cheap aluminum level. It's like a 2-foot little aluminum crappy level, but it's a great heat sink. So if you're ironing, I follow it with the level and I push with the level as I'm ironing. And what it's doing is it's drying the glue and drawing the heat out while applying pressure as you walk the joint.
Cause that edge banding's gonna wanna.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're kind of
It's in a
fast
roll,
carrying
it
it.
doesn't come flat, right? So
Yeah.
It's gonna wanna.
It's got a curve in it, bent
Yeah.
into it, yeah.
Yeah, so that will set it and press it at the same time as you follow.
Yeah, you're like.
That works really well.
That'll go well until
I
the
didn't
aluminum
think of that.
heats up a little bit. You give it a second, it'll cool off again.
It's
All right.
great. It's a perfect little, and it was like $5. You can grab it from an artist, you know.
You might already have a level you could just put on it.
Yeah,
I'm like.
yeah,
it's
whatever,
not-
just something that's
It's not
heat
gonna-
sink.
Yeah.
A level works great.
It's like a foot and a half. I think I got-
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Because I had it like 3.
Oh, we were talking about making base plates and stuff. So I make corner jigs, corner radius jigs, if I need to do a radius with the router. Again, if you have a laser or access to a laser. Just, yeah, and these holes, by the way, because I'm lazy as hell. So, here's like the 1-inch radius jig, right? So the question is, what are these for? Well, these allow me to set my straight edges. And so you can buy machined pins. They sell like steel, perfect machine pins.
Gauge pinch.
Right? So I figured out the hole size on the laser and I just use the pins and I put the pins in and bring some wood to it and tack them with some glue and pull the pins out and put them
If
in
you're,
the job.
if it's
That way
even
you're not-
harder, so buying those pins.
Yeah.
You can just use a router bit.
Oh, yes, of course. There you go.
That would have
Perfect.
been.
That's even
Like,
better.
you already have the router.
1/4 inch shank,
Yeah,
exactly.
1/4 inch, half inch.
Yes.
whatever.
Not to drag
So-
it back to lasers, but you can also engrave a deep engraving. That's your registration for your pens too. I've done that. a few
Yeah.
times. Where you do a little like 32nd of an inch deep engraving of that whole area and then just CNC. I think, kind of wrap it in. It's basically.
Multiple.
Yeah.
I think.
Anodized.
It's scrap is what it is.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, 6 millimeter.
Yeah.
I got. I had this on a table over here. I found this in my drawer.
Yeah.
It's a pallet from Milwaukee router.
Which one?
Huh?
Which one?
Oh, 5610, 5620.
That's my router.
50.
I have like
Yada, yada, yada.
6 of those.
It's an ER type cow.
Yeah,
type
it's
cow.
similar to an ER 32, yeah. I have
Yeah.
that router.
Huh?
I have that router. That's my router.
You get it out. Now you
Yeah,
get everything out.
Quarter inch then.
I'll hate it.
Yeah,
So now I got paperwork.
absolutely.
Prove it.
Let me share first, hold on.
We've been talking about different router bases, and some of you have seen this photo before, but,
We have seen that photo before. Thanks, Dave.
So a while ago, we had to, create a sled,
Oh, yeah.
and, we talked about 80-20 and how handy that is. So I'm double duty on this, photo. So basically just created another, base and then put some dust collection on it.
There we go.
Do you run that in the slot of the 80?
Yes, I do. And the main thing I wanted to point out is 80-20, you know, you can do lots of things with it. I had a bunch, and so it just slides in here back and forth. No problem. And then just hang a hose from the top. Now the addition, the bonus that I didn't talk about before, notice how much crap you throw out if you're trying to flatten out a slab. So I said to myself, I mistakenly ordered a dozen of these on Amazon. Millions. And I wanted one. These are smoothing brushes for putting up,
Wait a second. How did you mistakenly order
was
a
one.
dozen?
it was one box.
$1.
But it's like 12 bucks. It was some ridiculous, you know, it's, anyway.
It was
So a
It's
bunch
not
of
the-
them showed up, and so, so they were gonna be stocking stuffers.
That's what your wife wants.
Yes.
But I said to myself, wait a minute. Why don't I just attach
Oh, that's
these brushes
sweeps.
all the way around?
Have you found that
Brilliant.
which side the hose is on does better just depending on which side you're cutting?
No,
No, it's just all, because I figure if you cut it a certain way, you could be throwing right at the hose.
well,
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to, that was a thought. Regardless, it was a mess.
Of course, I mean, you're throwing it at the hose at 4,000 miles an hour.
So if I were ever to do this again, I love the 80-20, it was dead flat. You know, no bowing was gonna happen across that bridge area. And I like the clear base.
Yeah.
Because then I could see
See where you missed.
as the router bit exploded, I go, oh.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
that.
And you can see where you missed.
Tom, is that just quarter inch?
Um,
Probably 6 now.
3/8.
Okay.
It's whatever the thickness of your slot is in your 80-20.
Well, depends, like this is, now we're getting up into the weeds.
Yeah.
So this is 110 or 10, and that's 15 series that I use there, but I found out that the 10 series could be used for the bridge. But for the long runs, I definitely go with the 15
Since we're on a
series.
tangent, do you guys have tap plastics on here?
No,
So now it's better.
Damn.
I don't think so.
Anything like
Can you
tap
get those
plastics?
rails?
Yeah.
I've
Those
never
are
heard
really
of that
nice, but
plastics.
where do you
I
get
think
them?
I've seen.
In fact, you could walk you could go to Alro and pay too much for it,
Okay.
but there's a website called 80/20.
Yeah.
Then you can order from them, and we're relatively close to their distribution, so it doesn't take long. If you want to pay less, go to something called T-Nuts,
Oh, yeah.
N-U-T-Z.
There's also an 80-20 store on eBay that is the actual 80-20 companies overstock.
I thought they
throwaway.
closed.
It's.
I thought they shut it down.
Uh,
Because that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was like.
The best way is to do what Stefan told me before.
And the best is,
Haggerty Metals.
you go to
Yeah.
Haggerty Metals and I picked up a bunch
Oh,
of,
yeah.
but
You wander around and hope they got the size you need.
well, you need to know to where to walk.
there's when there's 80/20, if he gets 80/20 and he puts it in a special spot, and then you gotta walk around the scales and sort of peek back there if there's any.
Yeah. There used to be a place in Sacramento that was called
But,
Color Supply, and you buy
Bottom,
by the pound and a little.
another router base. I like the clear. I wanted to put a big hose on it, so I could maximize. And it still was bloody messy.
Yeah.
And then I stumbled upon these with my magic
That's a
order
great
from
idea.
Amazon. And then next time I would just, tack them on there,
Mm-hmm.
drill holes in there and be done with it.
So it's not getting back into others.
Oh, yeah. You're not gonna be starting stuff.
Is that for plaster then?
Wallpaper.
The wallpaper.
Okay. But they're actually nice to have around the shop, because I mean, so many that are hanging there, but you can just have a table.
It's a good bench brush.
Yeah.
He's cleaning snow off the car.
Yeah.
That's good.
Just in time for winter.
So dealing with, slabs or
Okay.
something like that.
I guess since we're on the subject of slab flattening.
Okay.
I've got a few slides.
Okay.
Packard slab flattening. The original one, I came just a few simple slides. Give you an idea of what the, hello? Oh.
Coming up there.
There it is. Okay, so this was the original woodpecker slab flattener. It's sitting on a table. It's mounted on a,
That's a V-rail, isn't it?
yeah, well, yeah, it's a V rail, exactly right.
Yeah, okay.
And here we go. And the sled runs back and forth on here, and then you can pull it down and go back and forth again. A couple of things I found about this, speaking of messy. The original, they tried to fix it a couple of times, because it puts out a
Tons
whole ton
In every
of
direction.
scrap in every direction. And I used something along the lines of those brushes. I tried to make a few things.
Can you buy 12 of them?
No. Because there's so much space along here. That it blows out in every direction.
What kind of cutter are you using? Yeah.
Funny you should mention. Good. Mention that. Here's
There you go.
big 3 small cutters. This is the one. This is the one that I was using.
Oh, yeah.
It's a replaceable carbide,
Yeah, yeah.
and most of these are broken. They have to be replaced though. Send that one around first.
Wow, you're a
That was
bold man.
Can't you rotate them?
Yeah, but some of them make it work. Then I've got a white side and
Dave, I've got your stuff. I'm going for it.
a white side and infinity here. Slightly smaller, not replaceable. But I think they're gonna do a little bit smoother job. You can sort of see the pattern
Yeah.
back
Your
and forth
inserts have
on
a
this.
little radius, that'll help.
Yeah,
Move that out a little bit.
right, and those inserts,
It's interesting, that cuts just on the corner as opposed to a flat.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so these guys here will be one.
Yeah, I would think so.
Let's go to the next one.
Sure.
Those
Now,
wood tool inserts. in.
this was the part of a tabletop.
Don't
That I
feel
made.
it.
Here we go.
All right.
One of the things that they tell you when I was first reading about this, you don't have a flat piece of wood to start out.
Yeah.
It's, these boards tend to be flexed, twisted and various things. So they've got these interesting dog ends. But you need to shim them until you've got a relatively stable surface before you go over the board. And then once you've turned it over, you get the other side. Now you've got a flat surface. So that was.
Gives you the flexibility to select where in the board you want your plane to be too.
Exactly right.
That, yeah.
Yeah,
And that makes a big difference, so. This is just the bottom of this, of this design that I had. I've got, we're looking at the underside of the table, right? Yeah. So. The, two legs are kind of slanted in, and then there's a lower shelf as well. And, I got, on the good sides of this thing, I just, planed them a little bit flatter. So you can go on in that. And so this is what it looked like once it was finished. And in my basement. And the last slide is.
Oh, that's nice.
What it looked like when it was put in place at a friend's house. Beautiful.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice.
Nice, it's really nice.
Yeah. So it really came out.
How do you like soften the edges? What do you use?
It was some planing, some sanding, some card scrapers, mostly hand tooled.
Nice.
That I use. So
What's the finish?
The pitch is, if you're gonna get one of those things, they're not cheap, but get the pro model because it does a whole lot better job of capturing the chips. And you just won't have as much of a mess. And by the way, trim routers don't work real well for this. No.
Not on them big bits.
Was this a weekend? Was this a weekend project?
It was a little more. The finishing and the planning.
What did you finish?
Yeah, what's the finish?
Actually, it was, I started out with an oil, with a, what was it? What was a
Watco?
Oh, no, a rub-on. I'm trying to think of, not teak oil, tongue oil finish. But on the top, I put a wipe on poly over that, a couple of coats.
Beautiful.
And it's held up for years now, about 5-6 years. So.
While we're on that subject of flattening, those cutters are variable speed router. You don't want to run those things at full speed.
Oh, absolutely.
Way too big.
Exactly right. That's a good point.
When Dave goes, "You're a brave man," I was like, not at 10,000 RPM. I don't feel that brave at that.
No. No, the bigger the bit, the slower you go.
Way slower. So do you guys know like Turners use yeah, you know, like Turners have that hollowing rig that uses a round insert, the round circular cutter in carbide inserts. I'd like to see one of these heads with a circular cutter insert, because now you got a big radius, and that line from your passes would be a lot less.
Right, and
Very
like I said,
interesting.
you could make a fly cutter. It was very.
No, yeah. You can see
You
it.
could see it.
Yeah.
But a few passes with a.
Fly cutter, you're right. Yeah, I've seen fly cutters
With a
great.
splitting
Yeah.
plane, took those things away.
So
I don't want to put a fly cutter on the router.
how do you size a router, like with a job? So like, I know trim router, obviously, there's like the 2.25 router that I have, like the wall, Bosch makes one.
Yeah, I mean,
There's a bigger one, they're like 3-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. When do you need that?
Big things in router tables, that big. Anything that's good, like panel raisers or another big time, big
Yeah.
high horsepower, 'cause when you slow those 2.25 horses down, you don't have any. Oh, it really push a big fat bit. On my 2.25, I generally don't go over a 2-inch diameter, because I just can't do it. It doesn't have the-
Anyway, that's another tool that you know. The reason I got this was I saw somebody that used one. And then I read the reviews. This thing will end up being ready to finish surface. There's no marks, it's.
That must have a
designed and
nice
built.
radius on those inserts then, that's gotta be the.
It's got turnable inserts.
Beautiful.
It's called slab slayer.
It's a nice piece of machining too.
Yeah, it's made in the US.
You remember what that cost, Steve?
I think it was about $180.
Who makes it again?
It's RIP
Taking full rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But the company's actually, the guys that own the company designed it, they started machining them themselves, I think they're in Jackson, but, they've now had to outsource to a couple other good machine shops that they've qualified because of demand, but the reason there's a demand is the fact that after you surface, you're almost thinking that, damn, you've already got 320 to 400, you know, ready. I mean, there's nothing, you know. Now, it says he's running at 12,000. 18. Well, I think it's maximum is 18.
13. Wow.
That's
What's that?
14. Oh, 13.
That sounds more logical in my brain with something that size, yeah.
Yeah.
They must do something with the geometry to get that smooth. I bet you those cutters are bedded off axis. They don't point toward the center, they point past the center.
Yeah.
So that they're a shearing cut when they.
I'm thinking the quality of the cut has to do with these are not totally massive.
Expensive bit.
Well, it's the quality, it really comes down to vibration damping and insert quality. But that geometry is.
It's the geometry is
very big.
critical.
It really does look like they don't point to the center. It looks like they point past the center.
Right, yeah, they're kind of.
Cutters.
And they got some,
I think that's getting you some shear.
oh, they're angled too.
Yeah, well, this angle doesn't really do much when you're flattening, but the radial, if they point past center, then they're gonna come in with a shear.
Oh, yeah.
That tip's gonna lead in and it's gonna shear slide, so you're gonna get little tiny scallops like a pencil sharp. I'll bet that's got a lot to do with that. And then well machined gives you good balance. And then
When I talked to them, they have equipment that do a final inspection at power. You know, at speed.
It's a nice piece.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
but, yeah, you know.
Gotta appreciate a sexy piece of machine steel.
Yeah, that's
right?
beautiful.
That is,
Quite recommended.
About 180, something like that.
Anybody else have anything on routers?
All that's pretty fancy. I didn't know any better. So I bought off Amazon $225, $30 2-inchers. Blew one up. And then to get the final, I just did a skim, you know, how much you dig in is gonna affect, I noticed for the slab we're on. How much you dig in is gonna give the surface, and then to make it smooth, I just did a really fine, basically a skim coat. Or a skim layer, just a touch, and then just touched it with a sander and we're done.
Yeah.
I had just one thing we didn't touch on was part of the router is collets. In general, for most woodworking, it's not that important. I have, in my 2 cases, I have a quarter cable, 3.5 horse, like old cable router, and the collets were garbage. And they were kind of notoriously garbage. And so I replaced them with, it's an ER20. From Precise Fit. So I found a place that made good collets for that. But another kind of local thing, there's a thing that some people run into, is I have the Festool LR32 hole routing kit for doing shelf pins. And I sold the router that I used because I didn't use it for anything other than that, really. And so I but I kept the kit, and they use 8mm shanks. And so there's a company called Elaire, I think it's ELLAIRE in Toledo, that makes 8mm collets for just about any router style. So I just popped by there one day and knocked on the door of this super random warehouse looking place, and they were like, "Oh, here," and they just gave me one, so they didn't want to process it. But
have different precision for concentricity too.
Precise
Fit does that. We can get different grades.
But for anybody who wants to use a weird size
Elaire's really good.
bit, Elaire makes all sorts of different collet sizes for all sorts of different commodities, like, you know, big box routers. So if you've got you know, your Makita router, if you wanted to use
8 mils.
I mean, I like that. I have mine is a Makita. My trim router is a Makita. But it's laying recorded. But anyway, you know, that's where I got the collet for them. So you can get them for anything, and they have them in lots of sizes you could get like probably like just about anything you could find a router bit for. You could find
on eBay about 10 years ago, Android was blowing out these really stupid dimensions. I have like 20, 15, 30 seconds collets, or router bits, or straight bits, spiral bits, they're spiral, they might be ball nose. But it's just like, where are you gonna get collet for that? They're meant for metal milling machines, and you get a decent set of R8 collets that have that bore of it. Healer's got those. Concentricity, like he was saying, only matters when you get down to real tiny bits. Guitar makers will use a 23 thou router bit. That thing will break if you sneeze while you're routing. Concentricity is big there. That's where the precise bits finding, they've got levels of concentricity precision, like less than a 10th run out kind of stuff. And that's the only time you really care about that concentricity would be like super tiny bits, below a 16.
On that, if you go to precise bits, it used to be that everybody with a hobbyist CNC used one of those Bosch Colt.
Yep.
Routers.
Yeah.
And if you went to precise bits, they would sell the precision collets for those, because the factory ones were really not as good.
Yeah.
When you get down to the really small
Yeah, you
size,
get tiny bits, yeah.
after a while, precise bits quit selling them because the Bosch Colt run out of the factory is too big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they couldn't make it. They
So,
couldn't afford it.
what I'm saying is precise bit's a good way of to me, if you're gonna use a trim router like that for that small of a bit, which ones are actually worth a damn? You
Right,
know?
right. Which ones are they making collets for? Because they're the ones that they
Yeah,
can.
they'll have to be ones that have some low level of run out.
I think Gil's got pretty draw.
Yeah, I got a picture. You guys are all talking about these small router bits. I went to a couple of places I've been to, production line for building modular homes. And those guys set up a big table, 60-foot long, and they'll build a wall. So throw the studs in, all the windows and doors, and then they'll sheathe the whole thing. And then they've got a router that with a plunge bit, they'll go out and they'll cut out all the windows and doors with a router. So when I was building my house, I thought, oh, I'm gonna make one of those. So what I did is I took a piece of half or 3/4 conduit like that, and then another one here. I put a little offset in it, and then had a table set up here with a center part for the router to mount it. So two guys could operate this thing, and we had a switch at each end, so both guys had to be. So this thing had some adjustment in it, and I had a Makita 1/2-inch bit router, and the walls I was doing was 9 foot wide. So we sheathed those walls, and Paul, the fellow who's working with me,
List the wall, and he does it just like that, but he just uses, it's like a stick. He put like a broomstick on it or something.
Yeah.
I mean, legit just looks like a broomstick, and you're like, yeah, right, and he does the exact same thing, it's amazing.
yeah, it worked out good. I just wanted to show you this real quick here. I found this afternoon. Another just great example. See if I can find it.
While that's going, just remember, Saw Specialty does sharpen your router bits. Yeah.
That's another really good idea. Over at Romulus.
It take them out of the router to do it, it's the whole thing in.
They do it while it's running.
Yeah.
You just said
They
hold
show
on.
down at your shop, and while you're trimming something, they're like, hold still.
Put the what's done to it.
We're gonna watch an ad.
Now, I guess we'll have to recheck on this. But Saw Specialty, if you had your card.
Oh, yeah.
From Southeast Michigan, you get a 10% discount.
I talked to Neil today for about 45 minutes, yeah. He lectured me. Yeah, I got a lecture from Neil. We could watch this as, I need to do an operation, building some exterior doors, and I need to do the weather stripping groove. But it's behind the rabbet for the door, so it's way back, right? It's a tough cut to make. And so the guy told me, who makes doors, by the way, brilliant use of a router jig, right?
Your crest rail for a chair right there.
Yeah, who's to say your guide rails to it have to be straight, right? They can be curved and then you can, do, anyway, so
Not gonna make.
I asked him to make me a saw blade bored out for the shaper,
Oh, yeah.
so I
Yeah.
could run.
No, that's a splitting saw machine.
Yeah, it's a splitter, right?
Yeah.
So I called Neil because I don't know what kind of tooth angle and all that. And he gave me the don't die lecture. But he did. He was literally like, look, I'll make you the blade, but you have to understand if you run it too fast.
Carhartt's coming.
A 10-inch blade on a 10 horsepower shaper, run at the wrong speed, might kill you. And it's at your abdomen. Just be aware. So I got the Neil lecture.
But you know
He was
what?
very nice about it.
You don't
Stand
have
on
the
the other side
Kevlar
of your
sharp
sander.
paper? No. I've been there and I've seen their pallets where he's got.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Major company that he works in Indiana. And they're table saw blades. They're not round in the center. I think they're square, but.
Diamond.
Diamond.
Yeah.
They gotta be 1/4 of an inch thick.
Yeah.
And they've got some really aggressive inserts on them. And they keep sending them back and but they bring them in on the pallet. He told me that plant in Indiana builds 6,000 carcasses a day. But I mean, I think they're for Home Depot, Lowe's, huh? I don't know what.
Hey, Dave, you can take them on?
No.
I mean, they just,
Dave and mass marketing or mass production.
it's
don't-
not
don't
happening.
go.
Oh, the other thing is that to make that many, they can't, I had asked them, they said they can't use, they looked into CNCs and they can't do it. Because they can't make them that fast.
Can't move fast
Too
enough.
slow.
Because they're probably just shooting over like a table.
Well, a router bit doesn't
yeah.
have the gullets of a
Uh,
saw blade. That's the big thing. You can't. clear
But
that
he
saw
said they've
down.
got like a whole farm of bands of cabinet saws.
Right.
That's each set up to cut
One piece.
one
dimension.
particular width.
Never change it.
And they just run them through, they got auto feeds, they got
Man, how many of us have had to go back and find the one cut you messed up 3 days ago and you gotta get that saw right back where it was? I'd like 7 or 8 table saws.
Every time I set my fence,
Right, that's, you might as well.
It's like we're saying.
Every part I need a different dimension, do saw.
It's like
a
we're saying with
well-built
routers,
fence
like with routers, we're talking about, put one bit in.
One bit in,
that's it,
one
that's
route,
all
that's
it
it.
is, yeah.
Every single cut you make, new tool.
Woodpeckers makes for a table saw, a strip that goes in it's a sort of little groove on the edge of the table saw that the fence slides on.
Oh, okay.
And you attach this thing to it and it's got basically stops for your
Oh, yeah.
your table saw
Like a
setting.
multi-stop
Right.
fence setter. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so you like, say you're doing a dado, you can put 2 of them on
That way I
there.
can spend 2
and
days
do it that
setting up my stops before I make.
Well, it only makes sense if you're gonna like make 100 or something.
Yeah.
Right? But you can go exactly back to where you
Right.
were. So if you have something like that where you think this
See,
is
the
gonna
thing
be
is, that I
critical.
don't know I need that until after I need
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I can't
Without
really
thinking
need
ahead.
that thing. You never think I'm gonna mess that up. What's that they say, wisdom is that thing you get right after you needed it?
that your
Woodpeckers, that system is set up for only a couple.
Oh, no, it's bigger.
It's made by Woodpecker.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's set up for only a couple different styles of.
Right. But they make it awesome.
Yeah.
This is the concentric curve problem that we started the meeting with, right? And you could see, by the way, Stumpy Nubs did a great video on this, if you look him up, and you could see what he's doing, where he made a template flush. Now he's coming back with an offset in
He's got a
order to
Big bit
deal
on a
with the
small,
curve.
or a big bearing on a small bit that's doing the other way around. That's cool.
See how that fits exactly though?
Yeah, because it won't fit exactly if you use the same template. You can't do it, right? You need to
You need a
account for
different
the curve.
diameter to match your router bit or match your curve. basically.
I don't know how we did this, but I did a cutting board like that. What I did was I used a 3/8 bit to cut the groove.
Yep.
Then I cut it with a bandsaw, then use this to do each of the edges. And then put in exactly 3/8 inch
Yeah.
Fill
in
it in.
between, and then
Right, fill the
tighten it
curve.
together. It came out beautifully.
Yeah.
Disappeared.
It's all about making the templates, right?
Yep.
I mean, everything's templates. Cool.
What's the difference between a jig and a template?
Well,
Jig
a gig
fixture
typically holds
template.
a tool, right? Or
Oh,
guides.
there's- This is a dogma argument right here.
Yeah.
I think the question is what's the difference between a jig and a fixture?
That's another dogma argument. That's a worse one.
All right, let me get my portion back.
Fixtures for a lot more repeated use in my mind.
Generally, in my mind, a fixture holds your part.
Yes, I agree.
I don't necessarily think that a jig doesn't hold your part,
Right.
but it guides your tool.
Exactly.
I just think jig is one time use, fixture is multiple time use.
Oh, I know. What about
That's,
dovetail?
that's the.
But what
the
about
one you can talk
dovetail
about.
jigs?
Huh?
What about dovetail jigs? That's not a
Oh,
dovetail
I've been
fixture.
thinking about it from work, that's why.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, you probably
From
have.
work, it's a
like-
fixture. We use fixtures in production, use a jig to make the fixture, which I know is.
A jig is something you build to make something else.
To make the thing that then you use in production.
And sometimes you need a jig to make the jig.
Yeah, we have done that as well. We try, we always try to avoid that. You're getting jig with them.
Some of you will remember that last month, my show and tell was the hole I drilled in my hand. Yeah. It's filled up pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, I thought you had a bandage the pan.
You do? I had a 1 inch hole.
Yeah.
Good job.
No, it's a
Very good job.
Well,
I was
Give it to the guy that put the
bad job to
bandages on.
start with, good job to finish it.
That wasn't any high glue involved, was there?
Real high.
I've drilled
river
holes
of
in
five.
tennis balls.
Yeah.
My grandkids kindergarten teacher, which she puts on the bottom of the chairs so they won't squeak.
Right in there.
Yep.
And I look at these grandkids, I've been doing this for years. But I developed arthritis here. And I was stupidly holding the tennis ball, but I don't have enough strength in this hand that I used to, and so it doesn't.
That's right. I just
It's pretty good. Forstner bit on it.
Hang it in there, right? Yeah.
Getting-
All done.
You know,
All right,
the ball
I think that's
slid
it.
out and the